Welcome to the Empowered Birth Series, where I teach you everything that you need to know to plan and get your true natural birth. And if you've been following this series for a while, then you know that I'm going into the 26 things that you need to know if this is your first time planning a true natural birth. This is because a lot of the advice that's out there in the mainstream tells you the typical path to take to get a natural birth, but it's not a true natural birth, which is also called a physiological birth. It's tuning into your own intuition and it's birthing your baby the way that your body intends for it to happen, not having outside interference. Unfortunately, the medical system and our birth culture has now appropriated this term to mean that it's a vaginal birth or an unmedicated birth, but it's not a true natural birth. And this is when we come into the problems of having a C-section or an induction that was otherwise not planned, or otherwise having a traumatic experience, which is not a real natural birth. It's like getting a frozen dessert at the grocery store and you had been expecting ice cream. So you get this, what's supposed to be organic ice cream home, but it was in the same packaging or it looked similar. And then you look at it and it's actually preservative-laden frozen dessert. You don't want that. So let's get you a true natural birth. And today's topic is all about getting your partner on board because your partner has a really special role to play in your birth. And it's not just having them as a glorified handholder or trying to advocate, because if they're trying to advocate for you, they really need to know some key things that the medical system is definitely not going to tell them, and our birth culture doesn't know to tell them. And only if you happen to be in the birth space as a birth worker and you've seen this stuff, you might not even know how to train up your partner properly. So today I'm going to give you the overview of what you need to know to plan and get your true natural birth and have your partner on board. And if you do want the full list of 26 things that you need to know to plan and get your true natural birth, all you have to do is go to my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/freebies. Again, that's empoweringmomsbirth.com/freebies. I have other guides as well on the natural birth traps, cesarean traps, all of these guides. You don't even have to put your name and email in. You just click the picture and the PDF guide will pop up. You can download it onto your phone. You can download it onto your computer. You can share a copy with your partner. You can share copies with your friends and family. All I ask is that since I'm giving this out to you for free, please pay it forward. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Please tell others about this because I'm committed to everyone having a true natural birth, or at the very least, an empowered birth experience. Because the whole philosophy behind empowered birth is that your body is designed to birth, and sometimes we need medical intervention, but it should not be the default. Because when it's the default, you can already see we're getting more cesareans, more inductions, more birth trauma, and moms are starting to get fed up with this, but they don't know how to advocate properly. And when you're in labor, you should not be advocating. I'm just going to say that. You do not need to be advocating while you're in labor. In fact, Ina May Gaskin even says this inside of Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, where you need to let your monkey do it. You need to be in your primal brain space where you're highly, highly suggestible. And this is where your partner comes in. Because if you're in a highly suggestible state and you're in this meditative trance, first of all, this also eliminates a lot of the pain that you would otherwise feel if you were in your thinking brain. And it will also help labor progress smoothly. Go read Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage by Rachel Reed to really understand this. She goes into depth in how physiological birth happens. And check out some of my other videos as well on physiological birth, which I call the true natural birth. So basically, your partner has a role to play to ensure that this birth goes off without you having to be holding all of the pieces or fighting the medical system, begging for permission, trying to compromise. And you do not need to be making anybody else feel comfortable. You are priority number one. So before we get started into this, I want you to just know that no matter where your partner is at the moment, in either saying yes to a home birth or yes to another free birth or yes to you not getting the epidural in the hospital, wherever they're at on this spectrum, you just need to know that it doesn't matter how comfortable they are with your birth plan, they need to get comfortable. And I have a whole bunch of tools inside your Empowered Birth Academy that teaches you how to do this. You can always reach out to me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, or you can check out some of the resources on my website. You can check out some of these other videos. You can go and get my birth advocacy report, which is inside my Empowered Birth Toolkit. You just go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit to get that. And I'll tell you more about that later. But first, here is what your partner's role is not. Your partner's role is not to talk you out of your birth plan. Your partner's role is not to tell you where you are allowed to birth. Your partner's role is not to side with the medical system against you. And unfortunately, this is what happens in a lot of cases. You see it in the mom groups where a mom is saying, I want to have a home birth, but my partner's not comfortable, so I'm going to the hospital. I really want to have a natural birth, but my partner keeps saying that I should just take the epidural. I really don't want to have a C-section, but my partner thinks that that's a safer bet for me. Or maybe it's that they're sitting there in the doctor's office with you, or even the midwife's office, and you're having a discussion with the midwife, and you know that what they're saying doesn't feel true to you, but your partner is listening, and then they get freaked out. And this is what happened with my ex, is with my first baby, I kept being told over and over that my son wouldn't tolerate labor well, that I would have problems giving birth to him, and that I needed to change my plan from the home birth that I desperately wanted to the hospital, which I wanted to avoid at all costs. And finally, after that appointment, where basically the doctor had been trying to rope my partner into this, he then said, hey, I'm not comfortable with having a home birth anymore. Maybe we should just have a hospital birth, just to be on the safe side. I mean, you've never done this before. I've never done this before. Maybe we don't know everything. And maybe our son does need some help. I mean, you're tiny, so it makes sense that he wouldn't be growing properly. And, you know, you don't eat very much. So maybe that's why. And we should just do this. And I just collapsed. Because once you don't have your partner on board, it's even harder for you to have that resolve and keep that mindset strong. It's not impossible. There are ways around that. And even with a category 5 partner, which I'll talk about later, you can still turn this around. There's just a different way of going about it. And I don't have enough time to get into all of this. However, what I'm going to tell you is your partner's role. So are you ready? Number 1, your partner needs to be in charge of helping you feel calm and safe and supported and able to actually do the thing that you want to do. This is true in life, and this is especially true in birth. At some point, you are going to say, I can't do this anymore. That is usually transition and you're almost there. Or maybe your labor is kind of stop and start and you're getting frustrated and you're starting to crumble. You're starting to wonder, can I really do this? Now, if your partner is on the other side of that and they're looking at you and they're like, well, maybe we should just get the epidural then if you can't really handle it. Or maybe we should just go for that C-section. Obviously, this isn't turning out right. Maybe we should go to the hospital now. And they're now against you and against the plan. Then you're in a very highly suggestible, vulnerable state, and you're going to collapse. And you're going to give in. Whereas what I've seen with my clients when I train up the partner is that mom is starting to get to the point where she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And the partner is still kind of pushing her forward. He's like, she's not going to forgive herself if she gives up. I'm going to keep helping her through this. I'm going to propel her. I'm going to be her rock. So your partner has to get out of their fear for that. And that's a whole other topic. But what you really need to know is that your partner needs to be that trampoline for your dreams. They need to believe in you, even when you stop believing in yourself, because it's going to happen. There's going to be a point where you're going to get really frustrated. Labor is not easy, even when it's not painful. It can be frustrating. You can stop and start. You can be like, I thought I would be done by now. You can be like, oh my gosh, this is really hard, or this one contraction that I just went through is really hard. And you need to be reminded that that contraction is done. You might not get another one like that. In fact, you might be almost at the end. But if your partner is now freaking out and they have their own vision of how birth should go and they were just going along with it, you didn't actually enroll them and inspire them in your vision, then what happens is it all falls apart. Which leads to the second part that you need to understand, which is that your partner also needs to protect that environment. Your partner needs to be in there thinking logistically. Okay, I need to turn off the lights. I need to make sure that we've got the bag packed. I need to make sure that I'm texting the doula, not her. I don't want her texting the doula because then she's in her thinking brain. My ex-partner had a role where when I was at home laboring in the pool, his only logistics was keep that pool warm, make sure that I have frozen fruit next to me so I can kind of have that. Make sure that I'm also drinking something. Make sure that you are texting the doula. I'm just going to be in my element. I am not going to be thinking. Now, if you have a partner who isn't aware that that's their role, they're going to be the one asking you, hey, where's this thing in your bag? I don't know what else we need. And they're trying to pull you out of your trance to answer questions. You don't want that. You want your partner so on board that they are looking at a list. And when the doctor or the nurse is asking, well, what's the due date? Your partner is answering that question. Your partner is making sure that your birth plan goes off without a hitch. You're not the one explaining it. You're not the one that's saying, I don't want a vaginal exam right now. You're not the one saying, I'm not going to get the IV. Your partner will say, it's in her plan. She doesn't want this. You're going to wait until after the contraction. I'm going to get her yes or no on it. And then I'm going to report back to you because you're not going to get into her space when she's going through this. Like, no. And if your partner is really on board and really understands this, they'll know when to call the midwife to the house or when to help you get to the hospital. But if you are trying to time your contractions or you're trying to figure out where the intensity is, you're trying to figure out the logistics, you're not in the primal state you need to be in to continue to not feel any pain as you're going through your labor process. This can also slow down your labor process because you are not supposed to be thinking. When you're thinking, that alerts to your body, hey, there might be a tiger in the area. Maybe we should slow down labor. So this is why the medical system really is not set up for true natural birth, because they often ask questions. So your partner's role is to ensure that the logistics happen without you having to do anything, which means that you need to have your partner on board long before you even go into labor. In fact, ideally, you want to have them on board at the beginning of your pregnancy. And I do have some resources. Often I put them inside the Empowered Birth Toolkit. They're also inside your Empowered Birth Academy, which is my paid version of my program. And what you do with it is you work through your fears. Then you also have your birth vision, what you want in your birth plans. You have your backup plans. You have your scripts that you're going to use. You have the words that are going to help you feel safe. And you communicate all of that to your partner. You also work through your partner's fears way ahead of time so that by the time it's go time, they are just as confident and ready to go. In fact, oftentimes when I'm working with a client, and I have been able to do this within 6 weeks, I'm not saying I can't. However, the longer I have to work with a couple, the easier it is for them to implement all of this ahead of time. So one couple I worked with a couple years back, I worked with them for 3 months. And the first month I was helping mom get through a lot of her fears, get past a lot of her traumas. and recognized that her body could do this. And then she started telling me how her partner had some concerns even now. Even though he had said, okay, we're going to do a home birth, he still had fears. And I got the idea. And now I incorporate this with all of my high level coaching. It's like, let's bring your partner in and let's train him up for the next 2 months. You're already confident. I've already given you all of the information you need to have your natural birth. You already know you have everything inside of you to do this, and you're able to tune into your intuition. But now we need to get him on board. And then when we got him on board, that's when I got to witness the most beautiful birth ever, where she was just doing her thing, and he would be able to tell from just the slight twitch of her hips and how she moved. He's like, "Oh, she's about to have another contraction. I'm about to do the hip squeeze for her." And he would just do it. I didn't even have to say anything at that point. I didn't have to suggest anything. He could tell when she was thirsty. He could tell when he just needed to let her do her thing. I was able to hold the space and keep everything calm, even when I was thousands of miles away on a computer watching through the screen and seeing how he was doing this. And then with another client that I was working with, I did the same thing where he was her rock. And he knew that if she held out her hand, she wanted him to grab it. He knew that he couldn't be too far away. He knew that he only had a few quick seconds to go and get some water or go and get something else taken care of before she would need him again. So they were very in tune with each other. And when she did end up choosing to transfer to the hospital, knowing that that hospital was going to push another repeat C-section, he was able to stand there and support her. And they managed to have a vaginal birth after 3 previous C-sections in a hospital that had said that that wasn't even possible because they weren't looking at any of the evidence that was already out there. They said, well, it's not for our country, so therefore it doesn't matter. When really, they made medical history by doing this. So when you understand that your partner's role is really to hold that space and recognize the logistics. So they're propelling you towards that dream. They're reminding you of why you're doing this so you don't give up. You don't crumble under the pressure. And they also know exactly how to keep that space safe for you. They know the logistics. They know that they need to get you water. They know they need to keep that pool warm. They know that they need to keep people out of your space, including if you've got other kids. They have that. It's like, okay, I'm going to call a sitter. Okay, I'm going to send the kids off with my sister or your sister or whatever it is. Or they're like, okay, I'm going to make sure that there's food ready because she's going to want that after. Like we're near the end and I can kind of, this is the point where I need to go because she's doing her thing, but I only have a few minutes. And like even before labor starts, if you start to kind of sense that something's going on, the more you can stay in that calm state and just rest, and your partner can do all of the things, the faster labor is going to come on for you. So this is another mistake I made where I was trying to do all of the logistics. There was a whole big thing with my relationship too, where I was always doing the logistics. However, I had started to set things up ahead of time so that I had that safe container. I created my own safe container because otherwise things would have fallen apart. My partner was freaking out near the end and he's like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm kind of freaking out because the midwife's not here and the baby's coming out. What do I do? And I was able to stay calm, but I'd also trained myself up to stay calm. I had all of the training to do that as a doula and as a childbirth educator. And I knew because I'd set up my 5-pillar system how to do that even without the right support. But I want you to have the right support. And so when you go through the empowered birth system, whether you take the free path or you take the self-study path or you choose to go into coaching with me, now I'm just going to let you know this is the premium and I don't work with everyone. Sometimes I only take 1 to 2 clients per year. Sometimes it's every 1 to 2 years that I'll even take someone on at that level. But if you want that, just go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. Go to the table of contents where it says work with me. Click that. and then it'll tell you more about how you can fill out an intake form to look at coaching with me. The other option is a lot less. So you can go the self-study route. This still gives you a little bit more access to me, in which case, if you go through the entire program and you're like, hey, I have like one or two questions that I really need to clarify, we can get on a 15-minute call and I can help you. I will actually coach you. I will give you my laser coaching version of the Empowered Birth Plan. But if you want that, you have to have already done the work. Because if you haven't done all of the work ahead of time, there's nothing I can really look at and then pinpoint ahead of time. And then when we get on that call, be like, okay, you wanted to talk about this. Let's work through that. Let's get you out of this whole fear trap, or get your partner out of that, or find a solution with what's working with your care provider or not working, so that you can get that birth that you deserve to have. You deserve an empowered birth. So that route is through your Empowered Birth Academy. You just go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/academy. This program is ever evolving. So you purchase the program as the bulk lessons. And then what happens is that no matter what, if you're in lifetime access, you have lifetime access to all of the resources and recorded videos of that core program. If you want to go a little bit extra and get some live classes when they are available, then that is an added service that is on top of that. But if you just pay for your Empowered Birth Academy once, you have everything you need, and you'll get the additional PDF guides as they come in. You'll get additional classes as they come in, and it's just ongoing forever, until obviously the program goes away or we change something. But even then, there will always be a form of empowered birth out there somewhere. The other thing I want to let you know is that, hey, I get it if you're not thinking about purchasing a course right now, or maybe you're kind of hesitant because it's kind of new. There hasn't been a lot of testing on the actual program aside from my coaching. In the space of the moms that I have given this program to, it's not super popular yet. Now, if you're watching this video in the future and it's been like 5-6 years from now, that may have changed. So I'm not saying it didn't change. However, the fact is that I want you to be able to get what you need. So the final path that I have, which is also path number 1, I call it the do it yourself, which is you just keep watching these videos. You like, share, subscribe to the channel. You go and check out my other social media channels as well, which would be Instagram. You can also check out Threads. I've started to put things on Threads. Make sure you go to my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com. Read the starter guide, so empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. Grab the freebies. And the best way to keep in connection with me is through the Empowered Birth Toolkit. I put resources in and I take things out. The only thing I keep in there is the birth advocacy report. That is an ongoing, never going to be taken out resource because of how powerful it is in helping to get you the birth you want and stop compromising with the medical system, and help enroll them into supporting true natural birth. Which leads to the last part, because advocacy is really the key here. Once you've gotten past your fears and you've gotten your partner on board, which are the 2 steps of my Empowered Birth method, then what you want to do is you want to advocate within the medical system. Now, this is usually when a lot of moms fall apart, and this is when a lot of partners get it wrong. In fact, when I was laboring in the tub, I had already told my partner I didn't want to be on my back to birth, and I didn't want to be on the bed. I wanted to be birthing in the tub. But he went down the hall to go to the bathroom, and when he came back, the nurse and the midwife had already pulled me out of the tub, and they were trying to get me onto the bed, and I was not cooperating because I didn't want to get on the bed. I was also in a highly suggestible state, and I couldn't really fight back. I couldn't really explain why I didn't want to get on the bed, and they were just following protocol. So I don't make them wrong for this. However, when you are practicing a certain way and you're used to certain things being done and somebody is resisting, that in itself can be confronting, which is why I say, go check out the birth advocacy report. It's in the Empowered Birth Toolkit. Go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit. You'll also be signed up for the Empowered Birth newsletter, which I put out every single week. This is a deep dive into certain topics on advocacy or natural birth. I also tell you about what's going on in the Empowered Mom Circle, which is my wider network. So I have people that are teaching moms how to run businesses, how to have more empowered relationships. I do teach some birth stuff too. And sometimes I'm out teaching in their groups, or sometimes they have something available that would be really a good extra resource for you. Sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's a little class. Sometimes it's paid. I'm just going to put that out there for you so that you don't have to go looking for it. Because oftentimes in mainstream, you keep going for the same resources that lead to what I call the natural birth traps, which I talk about inside my book, Your Empowered Birth. And this then puts you back into the whole conveyor belt in the medical system where you get an induction, a C-section, you agree to the vaginal exams, you compromise on your birth plan, your partner doesn't know how to support you. They also are compliant now, and they do what my ex did, which is he saw that they wanted me on the bed. He didn't know what to do. And instead of going to me and saying, what do you need right now? Or tuning into what I need, or referring back to the birth plan that I'd given him to know that I don't want this and I'm resisting. He's like, where do you want her? And he was a strong guy. So he picked me up and he just put me on the bed. And then the nurse is like, well, we need you to hold her legs to stop her from moving up the incline of the bed because she keeps trying to get off her back. And he did it. He did it without question. So when you're in that fear state and somebody who seems to be in charge suddenly tells you to do something and you're afraid, you automatically default to that, which is why, number 3, your partner needs to be your advocate and protector. They need to know that you're in charge at all times. They need to know that the medical system can and will try to rope them in to the medical model of birth and following orders that you don't want to follow. So your partner needs to be very strong and secure in saying no. And this is what I trained up one of my clients to do. He was afraid that if she went into the hospital by herself, that she was going to get another C-section. He couldn't be there for her because he had to take care of their other boys at home. And then he quickly got a sitter for them. And then he went straight to the hospital and he advocated strongly. And he's like, you are not going to push her into a C-section. Now, she had been able to hold her own for a very long time, but it can be really tiring to have to keep fighting. And labor is going to stay stalled if you are fighting. So if you're fighting, your cortisol levels are coming up and you've got adrenaline in your system. That's going to make labor more painful. It's going to make it longer. It's going to make it more difficult. You might even have labor stall out, which then leads to failure to progress, and they won't let you go home. And even though they're not supposed to not let you, it can be really confronting to try to stop them if they are now holding you down, which shouldn't be allowed, by the way. However, this is what happens to my client, is that she was trying to leave. And they kind of strong-armed her. Now, this wouldn't have happened if her partner had also been in the room, if there had been witnesses, but there were no witnesses. So part of your partner's role is protector and witness. This is also a role of a doula. So when you also hire a doula, in addition to having your partner already a strong advocate for you, you are such a formidable team that your partner is holding the space for you and your doula is at the door, making sure that nobody tries to pull the wool over anybody's eyes and push them into a direction that they don't need to go in just to follow the status quo. And again, your partner can't do that if they're afraid. So part of the empowered birth method, as I said, is that you need to get your partner to not be afraid, which means you need to first go through your fears and know how to handle them. Once you go through that system of knowing how to handle your fears, then you can hold your partner's fears And then you can also communicate what you want in your vision and move them towards that and away from the what if something bad happens mentality, so that then they can stand next to you at those appointments and in the hospital or even at home. And they can be like, we're not letting anybody push us around. I got you. So the thing is that for that to happen, you really have to be able to communicate that to your partner. And there's a few methods inside of your Empowered Birth Academy. I have also talked about this a little bit inside my book, Your Empowered Birth, and I'll be talking about it more inside these videos. So keep following, like, share, subscribe to this channel. If you did find value with this and you would like to know more and you'd like to go deeper, I do invite you to get the Empowered Birth Toolkit. Again, go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit, and that will get you started. You'll be able to get those resources. You'll be able to get the birth advocacy report, which will also help you show your partner why it's so important for them to be your protector. The other thing is that sometimes I put in things about partner support, but with the Empowered Birth Toolkit, as I said, it's an ever-evolving resource. You also will want to be reading the newsletters every single week. I know they're long. They're intentionally long because they're a deep dive. It's almost as good as me coaching you. This is how I'm able to communicate the information without you having to buy a course. So if you're not in the position right now to purchase the full program, Your Empowered Birth Academy, this is the way you can still get the education. It is going to take longer. It's going to take more work for you to do it that way. And that is a path for you. Because again, I am committed to you having an empowered birth, whether you can work with me at the highest levels or not, whether you can afford my program or not, whether you can even attend any classes or even read my book. I mean, sometimes the money just isn't there, or it's just something else that you aren't able to get in that position yet to do it. Maybe you just need a little bit more information. Maybe you're kind of thinking about getting Academy, but at the same time, you're still kind of on the fence. Hey, that's okay. Because again, I didn't get into this just to be like, I'm going to put everything behind a paywall. I got into this because I was a first-time mom. I thought I was doing everything right to get my true natural birth. I saw how the system kept trying to manipulate me. I saw how they manipulated my partner. I saw how I fell into the fear traps. I was really mad when I realized that not only did I fall into it, but it could have been so much worse for me if I hadn't had my good, stubborn personality, if I hadn't understood the psychology of what was going on, if I hadn't dared question it, if I just followed the status quo, I probably would have got a C-section. I probably would have agreed to the induction, but I didn't. And things lined up for me to really see that even when I was having a completely natural birth and I'd avoided all interventions, it was still really, really hard to fight in that space. And then a few years later, even when I was planning my home birth, I could see that happening again. Only this time I had more training and I understood what was going on. And I was like, that's it. I'm not even bringing the midwife in until I'm pushing, because I can already see this is going in a direction I don't want it to go. So then I took that knowledge and I was just putting it out there. I was writing up little guides and articles and things, and I put them on my blog and I put them out to the public. I was doing rallies with Improving Birth at the time, and I would write my own stuff in addition to the things that they already gave me as materials to hand out. And I noticed that a lot of people were just like snapping up those guides like they were like candy. And I was running out of printable documents, and it was getting pretty expensive to do that. So then I created the blog at the time. And this is the point where Jenny came in and she's like, Carly, how do I take your classes? And I didn't have any at the time. So Jenny and I basically founded Your Empowered Birth Workshop and Your Empowered Birth Academy. Academy is the larger program, and Your Empowered Birth Workshop is like the starter program. You can get both off of my website if you go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/shop. They're both there. So even if you don't get the full academy, you'll get something with your Empowered Birth workshop. And it's less than the price of groceries for a week. So that's like, I wanted to make this accessible. Because when I realized just how much of a transformation my clients could get with my coaching and the time commitment and what I needed to do to balance it out with my kids and everything, I realized that it's expensive to work with me. And I'm not going to even say it's not. It is expensive to work with me, and it's worth every penny. Every single one of my clients has said it was worth it to shell out that money to work with you because of the transformation that they got. One of my clients, the one that had the home birth after 2 cesareans, and the partner had just been like on board. I'd worked with them for 3 months. And then I also attended their birth. The partner said, we saved $30,000 by working with you. So even if you don't hire me, though, you might want to hire a doula. And make sure you hire a doula who understands that your partner's role is also to be the protector, and that they're willing to train up your partner further against the actual medical system so that you can just feel confident to birth your baby. So that's my final words to you. Make sure you have somebody to support you and your partner. Because once you go into labor, your partner does not have anybody around to hold space for them. And then they might fall into their old patterns of fear. So if they have somebody in their space to hold space for them against the system, or at least like be able to text somebody, like in the case of me with my virtual doula service, they've got me on WhatsApp and they're able to text back and forth. They don't even have to get on a call by that point, but it helps to keep them sane. And you want your partner sane. You want your partner to be standing for you. So let's recap, okay? Your partner's true role is not glorified handholder, okay? Your partner's true role is, first of all, to be the comfort and trampoline for your dreams and your space where they're cheering you on and they believe in you more than anybody else in that room believes in you, or anybody else at home believes in you, and they're going to stand up for you against your mother-in-law, against your mother, against your family, like all of the family members. They're going to protect that space. They're going to make sure that they're fielding any phone calls while you are either in early labor or getting into labor or waiting for labor to happen, so that you're not hearing the, hey, we're just checking in to see if you had the baby yet, or hey, we're just checking in to see how far you are in labor right now. We're kind of worried, or any other number of things, or even before you even get to that point where you're at dinner and you mention casually, or somebody found out that you're having a home birth or you're having a natural birth, and they're trying to share their scary stories about why you shouldn't do that, trying to talk you out of it, trying to tell you what to do. And your partner is like right there and they're like, hey, no, we're not having that conversation. Like, they basically protect you, because this then translates into your parenting later on. So the more you train your partner up now to be that protector of your space and the trampoline for your dreams, the more connected you're going to be as parents and standing against old patterns in your families where maybe you want to do things differently. Maybe you want to parent differently. And maybe there's that really opinionated parent that you have or that they have that's going to try to undermine that. And as long as you two are a united front, they can't do anything. You're protecting your baby. And the second part you need to understand, of course, is that they've got to do the logistics. You tell them what you want, your vision, and then they create it for you. So if this translates even into parenting, you could be like, look, kids have this thing, kids have this thing, kids have this thing. I need to do this, and I need you to take care of this. I need to trust that you can actually take care of this. And they are competent. No weaponized incompetence. The empowered birth method of training up partners, also trains up partners to be full, equal partners, hands-on dads, hands-on partners, and they are able to take care of the laundry and everything that needs to be taken care of, or make sure that somebody else gets it done for you so you don't have to worry about it. No more mental load. And finally, the last one, being the advocate for you in the medical system, incredibly important, because you're not able to advocate for yourself at that moment. I mean, what if something happens in the future and like you're not capable of making a decision? Like maybe you're really sick, or maybe you're really upset about something and you're going through something, and your partner needs to advocate for you within the medical system to make sure that you get the help and support you need as you agreed on. I mean, you're with your partner for life, right? So if you're with your partner for life, you need to be planning for a whole life idea. And I have someone, a contact who is in the advocacy space for like end of life care and advocating for people that are kind of like in their 80s, 90s, and what you need to do to advocate for your family member. And it's the same thing. When you really understand how the system works and how it has the limitations, you can still make sure that you are getting the care that you need. So the more that you train up your partner using what I teach you inside your Empowered Birth Academy, or if you're getting some of the free resources to download, then what this does is it ensures you have a more connected, equal partnership for life. And your partner truly is your hero. And especially if you have a male partner, men love to be the hero. They just don't always know how. Sometimes they think they're playing the hero, but really they're following somebody who is turning them into the villain that they didn't want to be. And then that erodes your relationship. So if you want to know more about that, though, and you have any questions, you can always put them inside the chat. So I just want to let you know with the chat, though, is that when I'm checking it, it's not right away. So the best way to reach me if you really need a fast answer is to email me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, and that will get you help faster. If you don't really care if I take like a couple of weeks to a couple of months even to get to your comment, then that doesn't apply. But if you're really looking for help now, you need to be emailing me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com, and we'll get to myself or one of my team members. We will get back to you within 1 to 2 business days. I will give you a resource if I have it, or I'll point you in the direction of somebody else who has that resource. Remember, I have my Empowered Mom Circle. So I believe it's going to take all of us. We all have our pieces. And if I don't have it, guarantee I'll find it for you, or somebody in my network already has it. Make sure you're checking out the videos on Fridays as well on the YouTube channel, because that is when I put out interviews. I put out positive birth stories. I put out interviews with other experts in other fields, in the holistic space, in the birth space, in anything that's going to help you to become a more empowered mom. If I feel that it's part of the empowered birth philosophy and the empowered mom philosophy, then that's something that you're going to get in addition. So there's stuff on parenting, there's stuff on business, there's stuff on typical pregnancy stuff, but that's not all that it is. So you'll want to check those videos out. And not only that, I also share positive birth stories on Fridays as well. So whenever you check out those videos, that is my Empowered Mom Circle. And if you want to get into connection with anybody within my Empowered Mom Circle, and you might have forgotten what they said, you can always again reach out, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. And just a reminder as well, go to my website to get all of my freebie guides and resources. Get the Empowered Birth Toolkit. If you want the self-study version of the program, it's your Empowered Birth Academy. Just get that off of my shop. And thank you so much again for watching. I really love teaching on how to get partners on board. This is one of the main things that I do with my coaching. So I have a lot of information on that. I also draw from a really powerful relationship coach who teaches in the space of how to handle conflict without shame, blaming, or making anybody wrong, where they actually come into a deeper version of love afterwards. Her name is Annie Lala. She's a dear friend and mentor of mine. I will be dropping her information in the description as well if you want to check her out. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I will be sharing more next week on the 26 things you need to know to plan and get your true natural birth. If you want the full list, you just go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/freebies and go get it. There's a whole bunch of other guides on there as well. And happy empowered birth journey. Talk to you soon.